Another giant in the $72 trillion pension fund market has just FOMO'd into Bitcoin. One of Britain's largest pension funds is now allocating 3% of its money into Bitcoin. But that's not the only big name that we are seeing FOMO into Bitcoin in a really big way. I want to play you guys a clip from ETF expert and insider Eric Balchunas that confirms our most bullish thoughts are slowly but quietly coming true.
I will say this, if you look at the holders, there's like 1,200 institutional holders so far, which again is absurd. A normal ETF that's a new category would have, like, if they're lucky, like 15 to 20 holders, right?
I want to pause that right there. Eric Balchunas just said the Bitcoin ETFs have 1,200 institutions currently plowing money into the ETFs. He said, this is absurd. Normally, we only see around 10 to 20 different institutions getting on a normal ETF. So today I want to be talking about why I believe we are seeing FOMO from the $70 trillion pension fund market and why it's such a big deal that nobody is paying attention to. For those who don't know, it is literally $72 trillion in size. As you guys can see, these are all of the global pension funds all around the world. To give you guys a little bit of a visual representation, I suppose is the word, of what the pension fund market looks like, these are the world's 100 largest pension funds. As you can see, the very big light blue dot at the top of this screen, this is a $1.7 trillion pension fund coming out of Japan. And you can see a lot of these other pension funds are around that $300 to $500 billion size. They're huge, they're massive, and a lot of them are interested in Bitcoin. Speaking of the world's largest pension fund, the Japanese pension fund, GPIF is the initials for this one. Let's not forget what they said early in the year when we saw this headline drop. World's largest pension fund explores Bitcoin as an investment. Very interesting, don't you think? They said that they were looking for a diversification away from the Japanese yen. We can see, I want to highlight this part for you guys because I think it's really interesting and it's going to relate to what we're seeing in the US pension fund market in a moment. Yes, we are talking about the $200 trillion of unfunded liabilities we do see in the US pension fund market. So let's check this out right here. We can see the GPIF, the Japanese pension fund, said currently it puts funds in domestic and foreign bonds and stocks, real estate, infrastructure, and private equity. However, it is now looking for other assets, such as farmland, gold, and Bitcoin to incorporate into its portfolios. And it also noted, this was obviously happening earlier in the year, but it noted Bitcoin was up by 130% at the time that this pension fund showed a lot of interest. Now, you know what I think is going to be interesting? We've been speculating about this for a long time, but we've been saying that once Bitcoin breaks out of this 8-month-long consolidation period that it has been stuck in, a 238-day consolidation period, we've been saying more interest is going to come. We know price is the thing that draws in new people. We all know this. Very natural. Every time Bitcoin breaks above its all-time high, things get spicy. We see more interest. We see more billionaires, more corporations, more nation states, more pension funds getting into Bitcoin. But I think this cycle is a little bit interesting because this is the first cycle where the big money has front run the little guy. Right now, we do know that Google interest for Bitcoin is incredibly low for the little guy. Meanwhile, we're literally seeing sovereign wealth funds allocating to Bitcoin in a seriously large way. I want to show you guys this little headline here. I think it's a good one for a number of reasons, okay? The first being that Norway is a big country. Norway is not a small country. They're a huge country, and they have been getting Bitcoin exposure via buying MicroStrategy. And again, this has been going on for a little while now, okay? We know that the big money, the Bitcoin ETFs, they drove Bitcoin to a new all-time high before the halving. Never happened before. That's because the institutions, the pension funds, they're all buying these Bitcoin ETFs to get exposure to it early in this cycle. So why I think this cycle could be a little bit different. But have a look at what we're starting to see now. We're starting to see serious and significant interest and an uptick in Google search trends. We're beginning to see retail come back in. Now, I want to obviously take you guys to the source, to the original source. I've got the data. This isn't just a cherry-picked screenshot that I found on Twitter. Oh, no, no, no. I've got all the data. I still want to show you guys that, yes, in context, the spike we are seeing right now is still relatively small. That's why I've taken you to the source here. When you compare this to 2017, where we hit 100 on the search trends for Bitcoin, even in that 2021 bull market, in the bull market that we don't believe was a real bull market, we hit 67 on the Google search trends for Bitcoin. Right now, where are we? We're at 31, okay? I have seen some people make the case or make the argument that maybe Bitcoin's topping. We're seeing euphoria. Bitcoin's all over. I don't agree with that for a number of reasons we're going to be exploring today. But I think the first of those is because we haven't really seen big retail interest. I mean, have a look at the chart. There's not a lot going on there. We're still pretty low. You really need to zoom in on lower time frames to make the case that we're seeing a parabolic increase in Bitcoin. Again, I'm going to make that case for you. Have a look at that big jump. If you have a look at Google search trends for Bitcoin on a 90-day basis or even on a 12-month basis, we can see that thing is ticking up. But I think this is normal. I think this is healthy. It happens every single time. Retail always joins Bitcoin late. Retail always misses the best part of the party. And the party has started a little while ago. Central banks, sovereign wealth funds, they've been quietly accumulating Bitcoin. Very quietly, but they've been doing it very stealthily. Now, again, we've kind of talked about Norway a little bit. We've talked about the Japanese pension fund showing a little bit of interest into Bitcoin, which I do think is really interesting. I want to turn our attention to America because obviously we're seeing a lot of chatter come out from America. Cynthia Lummis is urging America to buy 1 million Bitcoin over the next 5 years, 200,000 coins a year. Who knows if it's going to happen or not? We don't know. Nobody knows the future. But it is interesting that Donald Trump is elected. We're seeing more and more interest in Bitcoin. More and more people are buying Bitcoin. We're seeing retail interest in Bitcoin really spike in a really big way and increase. So before I talk about America, I want to, of course, maybe let the new people know that if you are looking to buy your Bitcoin somewhere and, use a platform where you can take full advantage of Bitcoin and use it in the way it should be used, we always like to remind you guys of what Rhino Bitcoin is doing. On Rhino, you can buy Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin, and you can even use the Lightning Network and use the really intuitive and easy user interface that Rhino has. Again, we believe they are the all-in-one Bitcoin super application. As you can see, their mobile app is super clean, super easy to use, and we just highly recommend you check them out. They're a great Bitcoin-only company. So again, everything you need to know from Rhino is linked down below in the description, and they're not just for beginners. In the not too distant future, you're going to be able to borrow against your Bitcoin if that's something you want to do. Again, not financial advice. Nothing we say on this channel is financial advice, but some people don't like the tax hits of selling their Bitcoin. Some people prefer to borrow against their Bitcoin, but obviously there's a lot of companies who maybe are not the best to use to take loans out with. We all know what happened with BlockFi and Celsius and all of the shenanigans in 2022. That's why we always encourage you guys, be aware of companies offering you sketchy looking products. If the yield is too high, you are the yield. If you don't know where the yield is coming from, you are the yield. Okay, so again, stay tuned with that and keep an eye on what Rhino is doing. Now let's keep an eye on what America is doing. Because we all know America has been doing some pretty interesting things when it does come to Bitcoin. The 9th largest pension fund, the Wisconsin pension fund, obviously allocated $160 million worth of cuckbucks into Bitcoin earlier this year. It's massive. It was, as this article has called it, a trailblazing move. It was massive. And I think that really de-risked Bitcoin a lot in the US pension fund market. It really began to, let's just say, open up the floodgates, so to say, because not long after we saw this headline pop out. Michigan State Pension Fund allocates $6.6 million into the Bitcoin ETFs. And of course, let's not forget, Canada. Now, they've been, let's just say, doing things the wrong way, the Canadian pension funds, but they're interested in this broader space. Again, somebody tap a Canadian pension fund owner on the shoulder and tell them, look, Bitcoin only. Don't allocate to this stuff. Don't buy FTX. Go out there and buy the real stuff, Bitcoin. As Dingo Booty says, Bitcoin is the way. Couldn't agree more. Okay, and as McLovin says, if you're here to beat these institutions to the punch, congrats. Congrats to everybody who's been aggressively stacking Bitcoin throughout this past 8 months worth of chop solidation, as my friend Checkmate calls it. Okay, a lot of people called this the top. A lot of people said it's all over. Bitcoin's never consolidated at an all-time high for this long. Bitcoin's dead. This is a sign that Bitcoin's distributing. The smart money is dumping on you. So what a lot of people said. We've been very firm here on the channel that we believe that this is probably just a little bit of a consolidation period before we rip higher in a pretty big way over the next 12 months. Again, nobody knows the future, especially me. I have no idea what's going to come in the next 12 months. If you had to ask me to put some probabilities on it, though, I think we're in the early stages of a bull market for a lot of the things, for a lot of the reasons that I've showed you guys today. The big money's just getting in. I think we're going to see some big moves in the future here, and that is largely because some of the bigger markets in the world, the pension fund market, that, as you can see, is a $72 trillion market, is quietly but surely getting into Bitcoin. And I think it's really interesting that, yes, if you have a look at the price of Bitcoin, yeah, we're at an all-time high. And this is new. A lot of people are kind of like, they're not sure what to think about this cycle because it is similar to 2020. We did have like a long 6-8 month consolidation period before breaking out. But when we did this in 2020, we were at $10,000 when we finally broke out of this consolidation period. Okay. This time's a little bit different. We're already at an all-time high and FOMO, or interest for Bitcoin, is still pretty low. Okay. I think we're beginning to see some really interesting signs that maybe, just maybe, this Bitcoin cycle might surprise some people. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to make price predictions. I'm not going to talk about the price. Honestly, guys, we actually think price is probably one of the least interesting aspects of Bitcoin. That's why we always encourage you guys to self-custody your Bitcoin and learn about Bitcoin from a sovereign standpoint so you can actually begin to use Bitcoin the way it should be used, okay? A lot of people think Bitcoin is just a stock. It's just this volatile stock that goes up and down in price. They don't understand the true sovereignty Bitcoin gives you. I mean, being able to store 12 or 24 words in your head and, just simply cross whatever border you want to cross with as much wealth as you have in your head, it's a pretty powerful sovereign feature, so to say. To be able to not have to support all of the draconian and tyrannical things that our governments do with our very own money by saving in Bitcoin. It's pretty beautiful. I mean, again, I always tell people, if you're holding dollars, your government is stealing your wealth through inflation. And then with that stolen wealth they take from you, they're going and, let's just say, they're doing some things that me personally, I'm not a fan of. That's all I'm going to say on that topic. I'm going to try to keep this very PG rated. McLovin's calling me a time traveler. I'm not so sure. Chico, the man in the van, he's no longer a hodler. He's a hoarder. All-night hider. Oh, we appreciate that. Actually, yeah, if you are enjoying the content and if you think more people on YouTube might enjoy the content, we'd appreciate a little bit of a smashing of the like button down below. We're told that pushes the video to more people here on YouTube. Nick and James, my favorite Bitcoiners who I'm going to be seeing this week, when 100K. Who knows? Honestly, who knows when we're going to see 100K Bitcoin? My money is on soon. I'm a betting man. I'm an Australian. We are all betting men over there in Australia. With all that said, guys, I think the pension fund market needs to be watched in a big way. Another market that really does need to be watched is the billionaire markets and let's call them the hedge funds. There's 15,000 hedge funds and they control about $5 trillion of capital. As you can see by the thumbnail, we recently did a video looking at Paul Tudor Jones when he went on national news, predicting some pretty interesting things about Bitcoin. So if you didn't see that video, we'd recommend you guys check it out. After the live stream is finished, I'm going to put a link to that video somewhere around there. And with all that said, thank you so much to 1,526 of you guys tuning in on a Saturday afternoon. You might get another dose of high signal Bitcoin content tomorrow if you're lucky. So stay tuned for that. And I'm going to end this stream here. Thank you so much for everyone who tuned in.